So, this one's going to be about a presentation on productivity. So it's going to be something new, something completely new. Like there's never been something like that before on the podcast. But yeah, as always, more after the intro. As every day. Yesterday I've actually had to use my anti-echo blankets to sleep with because it was so amazingly cold in my fucking room. It's just been amazing. Like how cold it can be in Austria in the winter times and whatnot. But yeah, if you want to actually listen to this episode, it is totally possible, then please check out the link in the description. If you're just viewing this YouTube video, please check out the link in the description because there is a link to the podcast and to the podcast site where you can also choose where to listen to the podcast, which means you can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcast, you can listen to it on Google Podcast, you can listen it on Stitcher, on Castbox, and quite every singular site you might be listening your podcasts to, on whatever, I don't know. So please just choose then a site you would prefer and then check the podcast there. And as I said before, today is going to be a presentation, and today I've actually made a little presentation. It's not a really long one, but I still hope that it is a relatively good one and a useful one, and it is definitely about a topic that a lot of people have been talking about before, but still I have to say it is a really useful topic and also a really important topic because sometimes it's just important to have a lot of different inputs on a specific topic, and therefore we're going to talk about productivity. Productivity is definitely something that a lot of people have been talking about and a lot of people also will be talking about in the future because times change and things change as well. Therefore, it's always just really important, at my point of view, to just have kind of new quote-unquote perspectives on productivity and what it might mean in the future and whatnot, because in the future, productivity might be about something completely different, just because there is no need of just being productive. Maybe it just has a completely different connotation than in the future. I don't know. And I also don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, the problem is with productivity is, what about working harder? The problem with productivity is that it is a very, very, very difficult metrics and a very difficult variable to stimulate. And working harder is just way easier to stimulate because you can just have longer hours, you can just work more, you can just do more. And this is the point here, and I've actually kind of taken this point from Gary Vee. A lot of people actually asked him for productivity tips as well. And he said, what about working harder? And I was like, well, it is actually making sense. And it is actually true because working harder is way more easy, to stimulate and to just somehow manipulate than productivity. Because of course you can just work an hour longer. I don't know if you can just be more productive in this 1 hour, but you're just working more and you're working harder. Therefore, you're just stepping up your game in terms of this certain metrics. If it is about productivity, I don't know. It is way difficult and way more difficult because what is productivity? Is it like efficiency is something else, but productivity is something that's relatively, I think, at my point of view, difficult to explain. Just because what is productivity? If I would be saying like, okay, getting a specific amount of work done in a specific amount of time, then I think it would be more about efficiency, the whole discussion. Maybe efficiency is a part of productivity, probably actually. But yeah, I still found a few or searched for a few tips on productivity, and I've just Googled a little bit and just seen some tips and some things that also inspired me to talk about certain things. And one of the first things that I found were to-do lists. We actually haven't seen it. Wait a second. So one of the first things that I've actually found in terms of productivity is to-do lists. Therefore, here's a to-do list. And I have to say that to-do lists are also relatively important for me as well. I'm always having a to-do list on every single day. Before I even start doing something, I normally just have a to-do list. Today, there is actually no to-do list because like on certain days when you're having to do quite a lot of things, then it is definitely very important to have a to-do list and to know what you have to do. But on some other days, where you're not having to do so many things, then it's just quite of a waste of time, basically, at my point of view. I've actually also gone through I think it's been a book summary, but I'm not quite sure. I think it actually was a book summary on maybe also productivity and all those things, but I'm really not quite sure. The thing is, they also pointed out and also were talking about to-do lists and do's and not do's on to-do lists, so what you should be not doing and what you should be doing with your to-do lists. And the thing is, well, first of all, having a lot of points, and a lot of things to do on your to-do list might be just somehow necessary sometimes. But I think it's truly important to not overwhelm yourself with to-dos. Because, of course, you could also be grouping things like, okay, on this point in time, I'm going to do the podcast, but I could also be like, well, on this time I'm recording, on this time I'm making the keynote, on this time I'm actually editing it and whatnot. So I could actually kind of separate all those things. The thing is, if you're having a lot of tasks, if you're having a lot of things on your to-do list, it could be a little bit overwhelming. It could definitely overwhelm you with tasks, basically, just for real now. The thing is, just having a little bit of less tasks and just maybe concentrating on the things that actually matter, which might kind of reduce the amount of things that you're actually having, because often we really focus on things that do not really matter. For me, it might have been actually doing another presentation or making another presentation for school, because the thing is, having to do this presentation on the 9th of December, and I've already done the presentation itself, because I thought like, well, it's pretty nice to just have things done and whatsoever, but it doesn't really matter. It's not really important at this point in time. Therefore, focusing on what's really important just really makes sense as well. Then some other people are going to be like, well, yeah, you should be focusing on one major thing at a time and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be the best thing to do, to just only focus on one thing and only do one thing a day, because some people like me, for example, like to do different things. For me, actually, for example, podcasting all day long wouldn't be an option, because it is not something that I'm interested in solely. No, that's Italian. So I'm just also interested in other things. The podcast thing is not the only thing in my life. Of course, I'm always having to do other things besides working and whatnot. But the thing is, I'm also interested in doing the posts. I'm also interested in editing the podcast. I'm also interested in actually uploading the podcast, because there's also the audio version of the whole video version thing. Therefore, it's not only one thing to do for me. And I wouldn't necessarily also say that you should only be doing one thing a day, unless it is actually something that is working quite fine for you. Then you should definitely be doing that. But we are all different, and we all should be actually listening to ourselves and to our head and to our body and see what is working best for us. Of course, actually trusting those people that have a lot of experience in a specific field makes sense, and listening to them makes really sense, and it is also truly important. Listening in general is truly important, because who knows if there is something very, very, very precious besides the other bullshit between the lines. Therefore, always listen. No matter who you're talking to or whom you're talking to, always listen, because there'll just be something very, very, very valuable between the lines. The second thing would be tracking your time. Tracking your time is also something that's particularly important, but it is truly important because you can then see your behavior. And your behavior can lead to certain insights into where is your peak times or when are your peak times. For example, for me, it definitely is in the morning. I'm able to work way better and maybe even productive and maybe even more efficient in the morning. At least I feel that way, because then I just know that I'm having a lot of time. Then I know that there's nothing else to do. And especially also in the morning, especially when I'm able to wake up earlier than normally, then I really feel like that I'm having the time for doing some things that might not be that necessary. For example, things for school. For example, for my diploma, I'm currently working on my diploma. The thing is, it is not really something that I'm willing to do quite during the day, quote unquote. Like, of course, in the morning is also during the day, but I'm not willing to do it at 5 p.m. or at, 2 p.m. and whatnot. This for me is the time for just working on a podcast, working on different things. And all those things, those things then just really feel important to me, but not really my diploma. And this just really gives me the time to work on that. But also, just who knows, maybe you're working better, as I said, in the morning and or in the evening, or maybe even at night. Some people are actually really able to work in the night. It is not something that I like, I would rather wake up earlier and get up earlier and then work, but some people just do it the complete opposite way. They just work till the night and then they go to sleep at, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then they just sleep till 10 a.m., which might definitely work for somebody that is, what the fuck? For somebody that is self-employed or is an entrepreneur or whatnot, but for some people that are in a company, it might not work. So this is also something to consider. But it's definitely important to just know yourself, to, for example, also understand your behavior in terms of the patterns you're having, because often it is the case that in some periods of time and in some periods of the day, we are really not that productive. These are really kind of the opposites of our peak times. And then it would actually be a pretty great time to do a break. Because if you already know, okay, this is not a very productive time, this is not a really efficient time, it just also makes sense to just make a break there or have a break there, just because you aren't efficient anyways. Therefore, why should you even be working? Why should you be exhausting yourself? Why should you be using up your energy for certain times of the day where you would be needing it? Therefore, it's just as well really, 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 really important to know. My nose is just really tingling. It's actually tingling, isn't it? It's tingling today. Tingle, tingle, tingle. What the fuck? Tingle, tingle. Never mind. So therefore, have breaks at certain points of the day where you kind of feel like you're not really efficient, you're not really productive, and you're just not able to get shit done. Because it then would make really sense, and it is then also actually using your time pretty efficiently, in my point of view. But yeah, preparation is also pretty important. I don't know, it's spelled with the other B, but just break and preparation, it just, never mind. So for all the podcast listeners, I spelled it BREPARATION. By the way, if there is any mistake in the whole presentation, I'm very sorry, but I'm really unable to spell anything. I have always had problems with that. I'm always just really shit in German with spelling. I've always been shit at it, and I actually thought that it would be actually a little bit better in English, but it seems also to be the case that it is not really the case. But yeah, it is what it is. I could do anything about it if I thought it would be necessary, but I do not. Somehow it is, of course. But yeah, preparation is very important, And what I mean with preparation are, for example, those three things, which are rest, puking, and nutrition, and or rest, drinking, and nutrition. The problem there is not a lot of people are giving a fuck about that. And I can understand that, of course, just preparing for the next day and just getting to sleep relatively early to just get a lot of time the next day and whatsoever. So thinking in long terms is something that not everybody is doing, unfortunately, because it is something that's relatively, I would actually say, valuable, even though it's not the best word, I guess, to use here. But it's something that's truly, 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 truly fucking important, because if you know that if you get 7 hours of sleep, you won't be able to be as productive as with 8 hours of sleep, then it is definitely necessary to get your fucking 8 hours of sleep. I don't know if this is actually the case for somebody. It might be, but really kind of think about that. And also about your nutrition. Like, really, really give a fuck about your nutrition. It is definitely important, and it's definitely making you feel better and also more productive. At least at my point of view. At least I feel that way. Because, for example, if you're always having some tummy ache, or is it gut ache? Some ache, no matter what ache you're having due to nutrition, it just really, makes you not as productive as without any aches, which, I don't know, I think it just makes sense. But also give a fuck about drinking enough, which is also something that I thought would actually kind of manipulate and or change the performance that I'm having when I'm recording something, which means that when I'm drinking something before I'm recording, I kind of feel like that the recording is getting better just because I've drinking something or I've dranken something. I don't know. Yeah, definitely get your shit done. Definitely get your rest. Definitely get your healthy nutrition. And also your drinking habit done. Drinking is something that I'm really struggling with. I'm not really drinking a lot. Today I've actually drank. Is it actually drink? I don't actually know. I've drank, I think, this glass, and that's quite it. And there, in my glass, there's actually something that's relatively nasty. It is what it is. I wouldn't drink anything then, if I wouldn't drink that. But yeah, I think it is actually the last slide, is it? It is actually the last slide. Yeah. So this has actually been it with the keynote here, or this little presentation. And I've actually relatively enjoyed it, to be honest. I think it is actually, for me, a pretty great way to just use my creative spirit to just be more creative in the whole episode, because without the keynote, I could of course go through some other articles. I could of course just listen to or react to a video or react to a podcast and those things, I could be doing that. And I could also be just having some different segments and or more segments in the whole recording. But I don't know. I feel this is actually quite of an interesting way to do things and to have things, especially then when I'm cutting it and cutting everything out that's complete bullshit. Then it's also pretty nice. I at least feel that way. I at least, maybe this is just something that I'm saying to myself, but I've enjoyed it. Of course, it involves some more time, because I also have to do the keynote and whatnot, but it also ensures that I know what I'm talking about, which is also definitely an upside. So it's, in the end, it is a little bit more effort, but hopefully also going to be a little bit more return of investment. But I think, just because we're having quite some time left, I would actually like to go through some news. Maybe there is something that's particularly important to us, or to me, or to you. Therefore, we are having a look. We are having a look at the news and see what is going on there to make sure that everything is good there. Google use, blah, 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 blah. Let's see technology. I think this is actually one of the only things that I'm willing to go through is really like technology, and also business, I guess. The only two things that I'm actually willing to go through is business and technology. The other things are not like, they are interesting and they are really valuable to know at my point of view, but there's so much negative shit, and I do not really want to just talk about so many negative shit on this podcast, because I kind of want this to be some sort of a 30 minutes period of time you're having in your day that is not about negative shit. But yeah. So the first headline that I'm just reading there is Apple TV Plus will be free with an Apple Music student subscription. The question that I'm just having, is it only about a student subscription, which means that everybody that is having a normal subscription with Apple Music is quote-unquote fucked? And Nintendo Switch sales up 50%. 50. Is it because of the... Yeah, Nintendo Switch Lite helps boost hardware sales by more than 50%. I've been talking about the Switch Lite before. I don't know, and I actually haven't thought that it is such a big deal for such a lot of people, because, of course, it is cheaper, but only I think $100, which might be enough for some people, of course, but I don't know. I really thought that it wouldn't be such a big deal for such a lot of people, but it seems to be the case that it is. Nvidia Shield controller drops to $42 on Amazon, which is $80 off, which is quite something, from $60 to $42. Samsung Galaxy S11 Lite leaked again with impressive specs. Let's see, I'm interested in that, maybe you are as well, and then it will actually be a win-win situation. So let's see, Samsung Galaxy S11. Did I say 11 before? I'm not quite sure, I thought I would have said 11, which is German for 11. Recently, a reputable leaker claimed that Samsung was working on its Galaxy S10 Lite or Galaxy S11 Lite with the model number SMG770F, and now that model has been benchmarked. Spotted on Geekbench 5 by Sam Mobile, the phone has a Snapdragon 855 chipset and an 8GB of RAM. The former is the same chipset as the Galaxy S10 range uses in the US, while the later would mean more RAM than the base version of the Samsung Galaxy S10e. Additionally, this phone is listed as running Android 10 and achieved a single-core score of 742 and a multi-core score of 2604. Those results put in line with the rest of the Galaxy S10 range and even the Galaxy Note 10 range. Looks pretty great. The thing is, I really have to say, I'm just seeing something. There has been some thoughts about the new PS5 and that it might be looking like that. Somebody doubted that, but I don't know if this is actually something that's for sure now. If this is like the real deal now. Sony's PS5 is on the way, and its major first-party devs are making big games for the platform. So it's already just in the making. It's already just there. Development of the PS5 is progressing according to plan, and we believe development of game titles by our software development partners is progressing smoothly. We anticipate providing the highly engaging gameplay experience that both current users of the PS4 and potential new users have come to expect, Sony said in the report. Hardware development isn't the only hurdle Sony has to jump through with the PS5. Right now, Sony is working closely with AMD to design a highly customized SoC that ensures high-end gaming with native 4K visuals, 8K output, high frame rates, and even immersive ray tracing effects. Sony's first-party devs are leveraging PS5 dev kits to push the hardware to its limits and redefine what's capable on the PlayStation brand. I'm really looking forward to that, you know? The thing is, I've always been looking forward to new consoles because, of course, like, PC gaming is the shit and whatever, and you're able to do way more. This is definitely the case, you know, modding and whatever it might be, hacking also, fortunately maybe, you're able to do way more. December 2020, so it's actually a year. I kind of assumed that it would be not that far away, just because it seemed to not be that far away. But I don't know, like as I said, I'm always, and I've always been looking forward to those new consoles because it's nice to see. It's nice to see what they're capable of, you know, even though PCs have been able to do that just 2 years ago, or at this point in time, because this console is going to be out in a year. Therefore, let's talk about today. But yeah, it's still interesting to see what they are capable of doing with the hardware, and to also just see the progression. You know, the progression, for example, comparing the PS1 to the PS5 then, and all those things. Because if we have a look at the PS1 game, if we're just having a look at the PS1, like it's not even that bad, to be honest. Like it's fine. It's not good. It's fine, but it's really not that shitty. Not as shitty as I expected to be, actually. But now having a look at the PS4 graphics, I mean, I do not want to have the box. I mean, like, this is something completely different to talk about. You know, it is just fucking well. It is really amazing. You know what they were able to just build here. And the thing is, my point of view, consoles are way. Are they more efficient? This is actually, well, what do you think? You know, it would actually be a pretty nice conversation to have with somebody, I guess, because I kind of feel like that consoles are actually a little bit more efficient because, like, the release date from the from PS4, I guess, was in 2013. 2013. It's already 7 years old. Quite, you know, and it's gonna be 7 years old when the PS4 is coming, and it's just still insane. You know, it's just still insane what they were capable of doing with this console up to this point. Because of course the graphics on PC are going to be better, but the graphics on the PS4 were already really, really, really good, and I'm expecting quite a lot from the PS4 actually there, PS5 there, because as we can see now, and I'm showing you the PS3, which I'm also having like here just somewhere in my whatever it's called, I don't fucking know. The PS3 was released in November 11th, 2006. Yeah. And the PlayStation 2, like, it's always 6 years or 7 years. Like the PS2 was released in 2000, then the PlayStation 3 in I've also had a PlayStation 2, but I've had a slim one. But yeah, you know, because I was born in 2001, I'm 18 years old now. Pretty interesting, and I've played a lot of PS2. I've played really a lot of PS2, and it was just, I've always played it with my brother, and it just has been so great times playing with my brother, and also with the PlayStation 3. Then playing with my brother, having a lot of great hours with my brother, and those things. Just been amazing. Shout out to my brother. He's an amazing person. I really love him. But yeah. I think this is going to be the end of the episode. I really hope that the new PlayStation 5 is going to be amazing. I really hope, and I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, until then, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself, and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, which means that you can just be a nice person and being remembered as a nice person, because this is something we can totally do. And 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even some business ideas, since a lot of companies started with solving something that really pissed them off in the first run. Therefore, like, yeah, I'll see you the next time, hopefully. So please subscribe to the podcast and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'm going to see you the next time. I at least hope.